What's going on, guys? Welcome to Stocks with Stammer. I'm your host, Zach, aka Stammer, and I'm here to recap on what happened in the markets last week, what my take is, and what's the next move for next week. So let's start with how the markets performed last week. It was only a 4-day trading week for the American markets. Nevertheless, the Dow Jones finished up 0.4%, the S&P and the Nasdaq up 0.2% each, and the TSX, while it was basically flat, only up 0.04%. And some of the topics that were on our radar last week were technology, crude oil, and Bitcoin. So I'll start off with technology, and when it comes to technology, most investors focus on FAANG, which stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, aka Alphabet, and a lot of investors have thrown Nvidia in the mix. So in terms of performance, well, Facebook was down 1.77%, Apple was up 3.48%, Amazon was the big winner of this group, up 5.26% for the week. Alphabet was basically flat, down 0.12%. Netflix up 0.56%. And Nvidia, well, it was the biggest loser of the group, down 3.31% on the week. So when we look at Amazon, on Monday, Jeff Bezos stepped down as CEO and was replaced by Andy Jassy, who's the former CEO of Amazon Web Services. So this is Amazon's big cloud computing sector. And so I think a lot of investors were quite happy to see the change. They expect Amazon to continue on improving their cloud division of the business, which is a very high profit section of Amazon. And also, another positive thing for Amazon was that they had a victory. They successfully fought the Pentagon in terms of splitting the $10 billion, that's with a B, the $10 billion Pentagon contract with Microsoft. So take it as it is, two really good news for Amazon. When we look at Nvidia, well, it was more of a technical play in my opinion. It was overbought on the relative strength index, which is one of the measures for momentum. And so it pulled back a bit because it was overbought, like I just said. Also, during the last trading week, there was some fears coming out of China and how they cracked down on some of the Chinese publicly traded companies. And so I think the technical aspect combined with the whole Chinese fear story resulted in Nvidia going down a little bit last week. Shifting gears to crude oil. Crude oil was basically flat for the week. Basically unchanged, only down 0.03% amid stricter COVID-19 restrictions and lockdowns from governments around the world, but most notably in Japan, South Korea, and Australia. And so I think moving forward for crude oil, I'm a bit bearish. I mean, it dropped around $71 a barrel early on Wednesday morning, which was a 5% drop, but it was able to move back to the upside and finish unchanged for the rest of the week. However, I think with fears of the Delta variant and now fears of the Lambda variant, the newest COVID-19 variant coming out of Peru, I think when we look at crude oil, I think we could see a bit of a move to the downside, but we will go back to that later. Now, Bitcoin. If you're a Bitcoin investor, you know it's never a dull moment in the crypto world. And so Bitcoin finished at $33,534 a coin as of 4 p.m. on Friday. And it was also, relatively flat for Bitcoin standards. And some of the news that came out, well, Square, the financial service company run by Jack Dorsey, he announced that they were looking at building hardware wallets for Bitcoin. Furthermore, Senator Elizabeth Warren raised concerns about the about regulation in the crypto world, and where the SEC needs to step in. So that may be a bit of a headwind moving forward. And lastly, Bank of America announced in a memo that they are starting to build a crypto research team. So that's a bit exciting. I think the big thing looking forward for Bitcoin, I think if you're an investor, you got to look at the Grayscale lockup period. So Grayscale is a finance company that has Bitcoin trusts, and investors who had bought in since 6 months ago, they had their shares. So they don't own Bitcoin directly, they own shares of the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. I may make another video on that some other day, so stay tuned. So anyways, so they bought these shares 6 months ago, and they were in a 6-month lockup period. And so this lockup period ends near the end of July. So this is something to look at, especially maybe later next week and early next week, the week after, pardon, and how that might affect Bitcoin's price action. Now, if we look at the economic events coming up next week, Tuesday we have the Core Consumer Price Index, the monthly report coming out. On Wednesday we have the PPI, which is another monthly report. And on Thursday, we have the weekly jobless claims from the United States. Now, companies that are reporting earnings that you should keep an eye on. Well, next week, it's all about financials. JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, BlackRock, and Morgan Stanley, they are all reporting next week. And so it'll be interesting to see how they did in the quarter amid the 10-year yield price action, and how Thursday of this week it went back to the downside and was trading around the 1.25% level, but it got up a little bit to finish the week. But it'll be interesting to see how the market analyzes their earnings. Other interesting earnings to look at would be PepsiCo, Aritzia, which is one of the bigger Canadian retail stocks that you can invest in Canada, and one that I own, The Score, which is a media and gaming stock. And so I'll be looking forward to that on Tuesday. That's when they report their earnings. Things to look out for next week. Well, like I mentioned, it's all about COVID right now, more specifically about the Delta variant and also the Lambda and any other new variants that may even pop up. I think in the United States, the Delta variant has been spreading quite rapidly, and so this is definitely something to look at. And I think short term we might see a bit of a pullback, but I think medium to long term, technology will benefit from this because it's the whole stay at home play. And when people stay at home, they got to spend more money on MacBooks and computer chips. So that's to be determined. So here's the bottom line, folks. Be cautious, remain invested, and keep an eye out for opportunities. Sectors I'll be keeping an eye out next week will be the commodities, especially gold, as more as a trading opportunity. Technology, if we do see a pullback, I think it'd be a good time to start or add to your positions. And maybe even the consumer discretionary stocks, which is part of the whole value trade, which investors have been quite active in this trade for the last couple of months. Anyways, that's it for this episode. Like, comment, subscribe, share, do all that good stuff. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week.